York. In far-off days before the Queen had to worry about her family's marriages and divorces, and Charles seemed the perfect heir, her second son Andrew looked like the problem child.
I do recall Andrew being a bit of a problem. Around the time he was about 16, he famously went off to Los Angeles. I think it was his first taste of foreign work on behalf of the royals, and he decided to let off a fire extinguisher at a group of press photographers and cover them in foam head to foot. I mean, it's a very embarrassing incident, and it did a lot of damage, incidentally, to the equipment. But that was an early marker, one, on his behaviour, but it sent out a message to the Queen. She realised that her second son was going to have to be reined in, and he was reined in. What they did with Andrew? Quite simple. They put him in the Navy.
Andrew left Gordonston School in Scotland for naval training. He became a helicopter pilot. He married and divorced Sarah Ferguson, but the couple remained friends for the sake of their daughters Beatrice and Eugenie. Have their cousins William and Harry been damaged by their parents' bitter split?
I think the Queen does worry about her grandsons. She's extremely close to them. She worries less about William because she sees more of him, and she's happy about the way he's developing as an heir in line to the throne. I think Harry's a different kettle of fish. I think she probably sees in him more of Prince Andrew, and I think she would like Prince Charles to take a tighter control of Harry's life.
The Queen's grandfather, George V, was a second son who succeeded to the throne after the early death of his elder brother. He changed the family's German name Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to the English-sounding House of Windsor. He and Queen Mary were stern parents. Their elder son David was rebellious. His affair with Wallis Simpson led to his abdication. As Edward VIII, he gave up the throne for the woman he loved. As Duke and Duchess of Windsor, they lived in exile. The throne passed to the second son of George V, the shy Bertie. He became King George VI, father of the Queen. Some wonder if Charles should step aside for William, and there are others who wonder if William might one day step aside for Harry.
I think if British history teaches us anything, it is that where succession to the throne is concerned, people are remarkably pragmatic, so to that extent, anything is possible, theoretically.
Diane used to say Harry would love it, and used to say, "Don't worry, William, I'll be king." History does repeat itself, but for it to repeat itself and for William to abdicate, if you like, and Harry to become king, I think is very unlikely. It's a different world now, and I think that by the time William becomes king, he will be so much more of a figurehead. All the signals are that Harry will have an easier life than William because he has the privileges, but he doesn't have the responsibility that William has.
Carnarvon Castle, July 1969. The investiture of the 21st Prince of Wales. In this elaborate ceremony, Charles swore lifelong loyalty to the Queen. He was a 20-year-old Cambridge undergraduate. He also had to spend a term at Aberystwyth University, learning Welsh.
Mae'ch anerchiad wedi fy nghyffwrdd yn dywys, a gallaf eich sicrhau.
This was the beginning of his public life. William and Harry have not been expected to perform public duties. Is it fair to make comparisons with their father?
The Prince of Wales was in fact the heir to the throne, and William in particular, and Harry of course, are not. They're the spares. Prince Charles is still the heir to the throne, so they are allowed this extra time to have on their own. This very much also was Diana's wish. She wanted them to have time to develop, to grow as teenagers.
The death of their mother in 1997 was devastating for both boys. But was one affected more than the other?
One must remember, Harry was not yet 13 when Diana died. He was extremely upset, affected by his mother's death. He misses her still to this day terribly. And I think it had a more profound effect on Harry than it did on William. William is much more a self-contained young man. So the net effect was that Charles and his advisors decided that they were to have as normal and as quiet an upbringing as possible. So instead of thrusting them into the line of royal duty at an early age, they've been allowed to have a life very much like those of their friends. Privileged, yes, but without much responsibility either.
Harry's initiation into the army came as a soldier in the school's cadet corps. He was promoted to the highest rank of cadet officer. He was to join the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst in January 2005, but his entry was postponed because of a knee injury. Both William and Harry attended a parade of the Parachute Regiment, of which their father is Colonel-in-Chief.
Harry's always been interested in the military. That's what Diana was explaining to me. Harry will be fine because he's always loved the military. He loves castles and pomp and soldiers. And when he was a little kid, he had a complete camouflage outfit made for him and wouldn't take it off. And James Hewitt also gave him a little military outfit. And Diana took him with her when she went to visit one of her regiments. And he sat in a tank and pretended to fire guns, and he's always loved it. So he's been single-minded, really, about what he wants to do.
I think if he can focus all the aggression that he feels at the moment into a military career, and the fact that he obviously feels very hard done by, and there is a lot of aggression and frustration, if he can channel that into his military career, he's going to be a fantastic soldier.
Harry's gap year began with a spell in Australia as a jackaroo in the summer of 2003. He worked for 3 months as a cattle hand, part of a program designed to widen his work experience. It has not been a success.
It's been a monumental disaster. A gap year is a year. A gap year, it says it's all there in the title. Harry's having a gap 2 years. I've never heard of a gap 2 years before.
In Argentina, Harry was with his girlfriend Chelsea Davy, the 19-year-old daughter of a Zimbabwean businessman close to President Mugabe. Is Harry really such a worry?
There are concerns within the royal household at Harry's immaturity. He is an immature, he's a young 20, if you like. He's not yet very much grown up. He's still the rather mischievous teenager that he was a few years ago.
A few months before her death, Diana made a humanitarian visit to war-torn Angola. She saw AIDS, malnutrition and landmine injuries. Harry wants to continue the work cut short by her tragic death. He visited Lesotho in 2004. He's inherited her rapport with children and clearly enjoys being with them. Harry spent part of his time at an orphanage in Lesotho, where 40% of the population is believed to be infected with AIDS. While there, he made a documentary, The Forgotten Kingdom, Prince Harry in Lesotho.
I always wanted to go to an AIDS country to carry on my mother's legacy as much as I can. I don't want to take over from her because I never will. I don't think anyone can. But I want to try and carry it on to make her proud.
Harry's trip to Lesotho was fantastic for him because he is actually very caring and he does want to carry his mother's torch. And you saw how relaxed he was in front of the cameras and you saw how good he was with the kids. I think it was very good for him.
Harry will continue to take an interest in countries with AIDS problems. How well does this image of Harry sit with his wilder side?
The palace have made a huge problem for themselves. On the one hand, they're trying to tell us that here is the caring young man who is charitable, concerned about the welfare of the less well-off in much the way that his mother was. But on the other, he's behaving like a hoorah out of control. And the two cannot meet. And I think they have to decide which is the real Harry. I think they thrust him into this at far too young of age. It'd be much better for him to have got the discipline of the army behind him before they started to suggest he had this future as his mother's successor.